All right, so welcome back. We are in the heart of Manhattan, New York at Helaina. Dan DeMarino and Anthony Clark, thanks for having us here. So we already talked with Laura and Pam, kind of like the R&D staging process, the beginnings of the company, some of the funding stuff, like all the interesting stuff. But Dan, you are the business development manager, leader. Is that the right word?
And business development director.
Yeah. I was looking for the word. And Anthony, you are the chief technology officer.
Correct.
So can you guys? We've known each other for a long time.
We have,
but we haven't had you on the podcast, have we?
No, we haven't. This is my first time.
All right, so guys, give yourself some introductions, and then we're going to talk about. We had a really good conversation I want to get into about iron at some point. We got some products on the table, so have at it, man.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll go first. I mean, I've been in the supplement industry for the past 10 years. I've been at some pretty amazing places like Deerland Probiotics for 7 years, and then TSI, where we got to know each other with some of those awesome ingredients, and then most recently at American River Nutrition. All in, sales or commercial type roles, but I really am a product guy, and I have a science background, not on Anthony's level whatsoever, but what gets me excited is amazing technology. So when I saw what Helaina was doing, and I'd been tracking Helaina, I jumped at the chance to be here, and I've never worked with scientists like the level of Anthony, so it's like really cool to be on a team with him in the middle of New York City.
Yeah, and so when we did our tour back, and people on video can see the background, everyone we asked, I was asking, what is your name and what is your educational background? It's PhD, and then like real hard science PhDs too.
Yeah. I mean, I've blown away by the resources here, the level of scientists. I mean, you talk to any one of those people in the lab and ask them their background, and you're just like, this is incredible, and they have assembled all these brilliant minds in one building.
And one of these brilliant minds is Anthony.
Exactly.
So. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm Anthony Clark, the Chief Technology Officer at Helaina. My background's in fermentation technology, microbiology, PhD in molecular biology. Then I was at the Carlsberg Institute, which is a brewing company, big one in Denmark, there for 5 years. And then I joined Fermentation, which is a flavor and fragrance company in Switzerland. And basically built processes to things that smelled and tasted nice. So lots of small molecules, terpenes, things that are in all these beverages, the flavor systems in those. And they moved me to the States in 2007, supposed to be here for 2 years, and 18 years later, I'm still here. I got headhunted away to join PepsiCo Revolution to turn the fun for you into good for you. So that was crazy. Great experience in a fast-moving consumer good business, and then after that I had stints at International Flavors and Fragrances in Trexon, which is a synthetic biology company in San Francisco, and then latterly I was a chief science officer at Mycotechnology, scaling food ingredients using submerged culture of mushrooms. So that was a lot of fun. So I've been here 3 years now. Head up all of R&D and regulatory reports in through me. And I guess what's exciting here is, I was driving back from Denver, and the headhunter phoned me up and said, there's a job going for a CTO at Helaina. Do you know anybody? And I said, well, I'll talk. I'll talk to Helaina. And then I talked to Laura, and she's super inspiring. The vision and mission that she put together, I said, I have to be part of this story. So that was 3 years ago, and what we've built, as you can see behind us, I think is a real state-of-the-art R&D organization for discovering, making, assessing yeast that can make alternative ingredients, and we're talking about bioactives. Spent a lot of time evaluating small molecules as supplements and as nutritional ingredients, but to have the opportunity to make human breast milk proteins through precision fermentation it's the best gig I think I've ever had.
Really? Okay, That's cool. Yeah, you guys have done a lot. You got something here. It's obviously very clear that there is a story blooming here, and at some point, I think this is one of those moments we're gonna look back on this and just laugh about where we were, because it's gonna be like a 5,000 person company or something at some point, and that's the way I see this happening. So like, congratulations for you guys for like being a big part of this. When you came in, then, so none of this was back here, Anthony?
No, when I came in, no, we were just moving from biolabs downtown, so like in a kind of incubator shared space. And Laura and the team had just rented this place, so we hadn't even moved in here yet. So, yeah, it was a wild ride.
Awesome.
When you start running a place like this, I assume there was no technology pre-existing in here for fermentation or anything, right? Was this just an open place that you fitted with all this technology?
Yeah, it was a shell. We had an engineering group design the labs for us, and that was mainly down before my time. I don't take any credit for the architecture. It looks great. The idea of building the labs with the glass walls, I think, is pretty cool. In the heart of Manhattan, it really gives you a sense of the technology center of the organization, where you can see the real heart, the beating heart is the science in the lab.
Okay.
That's smart. That's an awesome layout. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I have to add, the fact that it is in Manhattan. I mean, the level of talent in this city, from all around the world, the caliber. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, Anthony, but I think that's also, we can attract some pretty amazing people to join this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing about New York. People don't actually see it as a biotech hub so much, but there's a huge amount of talent, and there's a great attractiveness for people to live in New York rather than Boston or San Francisco or the Bay Area. So I think we're well placed to take advantage of that.
So you said when we were talking about the design, that was before you got here. When you come on team with Helaina, like where is Helaina at, and where did you start? Like, how does that start?
So I think the great success we have here is we built a very predictable R&D organization. So what we did is we took the teams. So we go from designing the strain, testing the strain, and then picking the winners, doing the bioprocess, and then scaling the stuff. And in between that, we measure everything. So what we did is we spent time mapping out that workflow and where the intersections were with the teams. And then it was brilliant. You could see it. People do their Miro boards, and it was beautiful for their section. And then how they connected to the next team, it was like a bunch of squiggly lines, don't really know. And so we spent a lot of time straightening out those lines and how we did the transitions between the teams. And then we do things in what we call a design, build, assess, learn cycle. So turning the research side more into an R&D, an engineering paradigm. So in doing that, we have much more predictability in each of these cycles. We can expect maybe a 10-20% improvement in the cycle. And then what we did is we shortened those cycles from 15 weeks down to 5 weeks. So every 5 weeks, we're doing 300 genes into the organism, making sure that it's making the right protein. And that really gives us more shots on target, so we have a much more predictable R&D organization.
I keep hearing 5 weeks over and over and over. So can you...
That's a big thing. Yeah.
Can you explain why 5 weeks? Is that like the amount of time? Yeah. Will it ever be shorter, or is that like we're now constrained by how much time it takes for this to grow?
Basically, yeah. We've parallel tracked everything, so it's pretty much as short as it can get for yeast. I mean, we're lucky we're not working in plants because that cycle time could be 18 months, right? So, if we can do what we're doing in 5 weeks, and I presented this stuff at the Society of Industrial Microbiology and Biotechnology, and people going, wow, that's really cool. They understand this paradigm, but they're still, most people are in the months to do a cycle. So, really to shorten the cycle and then grow what we can put into the cycle has been the real focus.
So how is this different than like some of the other fermentation things that you've done in the past? It sounds like you were fermenting and creating some of these flavors and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so the first time I did this, the first real success we had was making patchouli oil. You know patchouli? It smells like hippies. It's really comes from a patchouli plant in Indonesia. We took the genes from the patchouli plant, put it into yeast. We worked with a company called Amaris in the Bay Area to scale that process. That took 14 years to get to commercialization. What we did here, we scaled this process in 9 months, going from a band and a gel and like just seeing the protein being produced to scaling to 45,000 liters in 9 months. It's quite quite different.
Wow. So you are building off the backs of other people and some of your former work and everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is not my first rodeo. I try to build startups, and what we really focused on, apart from stitching stuff together, is measuring everything, and then all of the data we have is machine readable, right? So everything goes into a relational data lake. It's all built on Snowflake. We have 3 years worth of data. So we have 170 million lines of data that we have 11 machine learning models working on that. And that allows us to do in silico experiments so that people don't have to do bench experiments. So again, shortening the time, allowing us to make assumptions about some of the scale-up stuff that we did. And we got all of that, luckily, quite right. It was quite, yeah.
So when you say in silico, that's a program that you're basically like theorizing,
yeah.
right? Based on the data that you already have. You said that in that I don't remember the time span, but you mentioned 300 different genes that you might be changing. For a completely layman consumer that is into fitness and wellness, but isn't any sort of genetics professor, could you explain like what those 300 genes that you might be changing are? Like what kinds of things you'll be doing, editing?
So pretty complex stuff. And that's a lot of the behind the curtain on how, but the why, just simply, I mean, when you look at our first launch, which is the human lactoferrin, it's mimicking exactly the lactoferrin in human breast milk, and that is a huge unlock. That's the main bioactive. I mention that because this has been something that's been desired for human health for decades. There's been tons of research, tons of investment from other companies to try to figure out how to make what Anthony's produced here. And it's really incredible, especially, infant nutrition. It's pretty easy to see why that's important, right? To make formula healthier baby. And now we have the access to this molecule we can bring into adult nutrition. But long story short, these guys did this in a couple years where others are still trying to figure it out. To my knowledge, I don't know if that's correct or not.
I think it's true. I mean, it's a very complicated molecule. It's 80 kilodaltons. It's very large protein. Has 16 disulfide bridges. That means it's joined together in 16 different places. And if any of those places are not right, then the protein doesn't work. It's glycosylated in a certain fashion. It has phosphorylation sites. It binds 2 atoms of iron. So it's pretty complicated. So every time we do one of those 300 interventions, we have to make sure that we don't change the quality of the protein, and it mimics exactly what you find in breast milk.
And there's a lot of different angles we can go here, but one of the big things that I don't think has fully been explained for us, Dan was saying behind the scenes, it's not just that your human lactoferrin equivalent is not creating an immune response, but it's actually binding better, and like where bovine lactoferrin is not even able to bind or something to that.
Yeah, there's so much here, but to put it really simply, one, this is an endogenous human protein, right? We produce it in our bodies. It's not just in breast milk. It's found in saliva. It's in your microbiome. It's a regulator of iron in your body. Your body produces this protein. It's critically important. So it does a lot of things. I'd say, there's 4 real areas just to kind of set the table, right? So iron regulation, that's a big piece lactoferrin plays in. And we'll get to the how. Microbiome and microbial control is another. The third would be cell signaling and cell proliferation. So it plays there. And then I'm missing the last. Immune modulation and then the inflammatory response. So this molecule plays across all 4 of those areas, and it plays a critical role. The reason why, and you mentioned bovine lactoferrin. So lactoferrin is species specific, right? So the bovine lactoferrin looks different. What he's talking about with the sugars, it's a sugar protein. How the sugars are configured, how the protein is laid out looks very different in bovine versus human. And when I talk about those 4 functional areas, most of the influence on those areas is coming from receptor binding. And we have human receptors, not cow receptors. So this human protein that's mimicking exactly what's in our body is going to perform more like our own endogenous lactoferrin as compared to bovine. And that's all the efficacy, and it creates an unlock for health. And that's what we're so excited about. And the immune, that what you referenced before, just goes to provide further evidence that our body's saying, hey, this is native. It's not having a reaction like it does to bovine lactoferrin.
You're not trying to clean it out or whatever.
Yeah, and bovine lactoferrin's great. Like, there's a lot of clinical studies. It does a lot of good. But this, and I don't even want to compete with it, really. I think it does a lot of the same things, but this does it better and more efficiently.
Right. I guess what I didn't understand is that you are actually working better with the receptors. Like, certain receptors with bovine don't.
That's the
connect,
theory, right?
Like,
we need to prove that out.
Okay.
But early evidence, and even so let me take a step back. There's a lot of research on actual human lactoferrin extracted from human breast milk, right? NIH, WHO have studied this, and they have proven out that affinity. They've proven it through different test methodologies. We have a lot of evidence to prove that we're bioequivalent and identical. So, and again, the immunogenicity study, we had a human lactoferrin arm. Ours performed the same. We had a digestibility study where the real human lactoferrin, ours performed exactly the same. So you could assume that we're going to show binding affinity. We need to prove that out further.
Okay.
But bovine doesn't. We know that, or has very low affinity, and that is,
it's not hitting. It's not like
It's not-
fitting into the receptor
yeah,
perfectly.
yeah, it's a
because you have
lock and
different-
key. It's
Yeah.
a lock and key. Yeah.
Okay, Ben, do you have something?
I was just going to comment, like, I feel like off camera this whole week, we've been talking about, like, what is the message? What is the message, right?
Right.
And it's like, there's like this cascading effect of levels to this, where it's like, just explaining to people how helpful lactoferrin is on its own is a whole conversation. That's before you even start talking about the source.
Right.
Right? Like, you could just say lactoferrin is very beneficial for most humans.
Right.
And that can be true. And then there's, well, where's the source coming from? And then it's the actual comparison to human lactoferrin. It's like, you guys have a couple jobs to do here.
We do.
It's very interesting. And then we start even talking about, like, what are the claims, right? We can talk about gut health. We can talk about all these different things. We haven't even mentioned on our last podcast with Laura, we talked about synergies with creatine. Like,
Oh boy.
there's so many different things to talk about.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you
Well,
start?
we got to get focused, and I think we're getting there. I mean, I'm a kid in a candy shop here. All the things that this molecule could do, but I think, and I learned a lot being here, but I think one of the main or primary things is iron regulation, and that's not that sexy or exciting, but when you dive into how important iron is in the body, you can understand. And when you understand how iron's regulated in the body, like, a lot of light bulbs just flash. It's just educating the consumer. So I can't, Anthony, thank God I have Anthony here to kind of guide this. But when iron is so critical in the body, right? But it also can be hazardous to the body. So there's so many different ways the body regulates iron. It's critical for oxygen transport, cell proliferation, neurodevelopment. It's a cofactor for muscle development. But also, if it's too high, it's a pro-oxidant. It's going to create ROS and disease.
Well,
So your body has to have all these systems to regulate it. Lactoferrin helps calm all of those and kind of guide the traffic. And I think Anthony can explain this a lot better than I can, but it's pretty incredible
yeah, I
how
mean,
it works. Yeah.
yeah, simply, we get all our energy from oxidative phosphorylation, right? That all comes through delivering oxygen through iron-mediated hemoglobin, right, to all your cells. But iron, the reason we die is because we oxidize, right? So basically, at the end of the day, that's how we end up dying, right? So if you can manage that reactive oxygen, which is mediated again by excessive iron and other processes, that's effectively, like photooxidation, skin. That's how your skin starts breaking down as you get older. If you can mediate those things, then you can live longer and you can have a healthier lifespan. And I think that's what lactoferrin offers as a promise for pretty much everybody. Whatever ailment you have in terms of iron homeostasis, inflammation, gut microbiome, it can help. It can be really like a translational molecule for your internal health state.
Yeah, and just to double down on the why, we're trying to tee up why iron's important, but it's not just iron absorption, right? Your body has to have a way to shut it down if there's too much iron, and that's regulated by inflammation. So not only does lactoferrin help with absorption, but it can calm the inflammation, so your body releases more iron or stores more iron and kind of directs traffic. So it's pretty complex, but yeah, super important.
So it's funny. There's so many different topics. I guess my question is, like, it's this incredible breast milk ingredient. It's all these other things we talked about. Like, I mean, how many claims, how many health benefits could you actually list out? You could talk about gut. You could talk about muscle. You could talk about all these. But are you saying that all of these things are downstream benefits of the iron?
So no, there's 4 core areas, like I said, but iron's probably interrelated, but I think the inflammation piece
is the big one.
And that's how lactoferrin's regulating iron, right? It's not about pulling iron into the body.
I think the big thing, and this is the conversation in the background, how do we reach these kids? Like, how do we, it's iron and inflammation. We know how important that is, but anti-inflammatory ingredients are not sexy.
Yeah.
Like, iron isn't
Gut
sexy.
sounds better.
I know. So this is kind of like, it's not your job to sell these products, but in a way it is your job to.
It's our job.
It is.
It's our job. Yeah. We can get into that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so we got to play with what people understand, right?
Exactly.
So one thing immediately is, and we'll give you behind the curtain, but what we'll say to the market is, iron regulates how much oxygen is in our blood cells, and you can increase oxygen carrying capacity, how much oxygen gets to your muscles. I shouldn't say this on camera, but training at altitude, right? Versus when you go back down, you're going to have more oxygen carrying capacity. You're going to feel like a hero. And actually you increase oxygen carrying capacity when you're training. That's part of, getting more oxygen.
VO2 max.
So by taking lactoferrin, let's leave all the mechanisms behind the curtain. We can increase your oxygen carrying capacity. So you're going to perform better. You can run longer. It's like taking lactoferrin, hypothetically, we need to prove this, is like training at altitude before your big race, right? So that's one way to frame it. The other way is most colostrum's blowing up, right? Lactoferrin is really one of the main reasons why it has efficacy. So we can relate it to that. And that goes across the board. But yeah, it is a challenge. It is definitely a challenge.
Because it's not like, you've got some beta alanine in a drink, you're feeling tingles, and you go off to the gym, and it's easy to sell. This takes time, and it's important, but it's in my opinion, Ben likes to play the breast with a lot of, we like kicking around the marketing ideas.
This is the fun part.
Yeah, and so Ben likes the breast milk angle. Nectar of the gods is something he says.
Yeah, that sounds weird when you say it like that.
Sorry.
But I just think of it like, when you look at like cultural moments right now, you look at ingredients that have just gotten past a single claim, right? Like, people take creatine for everything.
Creatine is its own category.
Right. And that's how I'm looking at Effera.
Right.
Is that if you focus too much on, like, gut permeability is a whole thing we could do a whole podcast on. We can
That's
talk about
one
that for 2
thing
hours.
it does.
But it's only one thing. If you look at it from a much more holistic nectar of the gods perspective, I think that consumers are going to be able to more easily latch on to that.
We do have plans in place. Our clinical strategy, I mean, we should be publishing some clinicals. I think that's going to really help with the narrative to say, take this product because it does this, right? And it's provable, it's quantified, and we can relate that. But it does so much more.
Yeah, so my personal perspective, I know I use lactoferrin on a daily basis, love it. We've talked about my blood work improving, and it definitely helped with that. But to me, I think women is the angle, in my opinion, because the whole iron story is very women-centric as it is, because women suffer from anemia more. They menstruate. There's more blood loss. I mean, that is the fact. The word lactoferrin sounds feminine. Effera is a bit of a feminine type, brand name, and then just the ingredient itself is kind of pink. Like, there's this like
it's pink gold.
It's pink gold. I like that a lot. So I think that the market. I personally think that just pushing the women button a little bit a lot bit harder is like where I would personally take things. I just like spitballing these things with you.
Yeah,
guys on
no,
the
I mean,
podcast.
look, we have absolutely. You're dead on. So we have a women's platform across all phases of life. I mean, from prenatal or reproductive years all the way through postmenopause, and it does a lot of great things there. And I think every woman should be taking effera, especially prenatal. And we could get into that, but that's table stakes. Gut health, table stakes, and then sports and active nutrition. So those are really the oxygen carrying capacity in that regard.
And
Go ahead, Anthony.
every time we do a clinical, we have questionnaires through Mensis, so that we're learning more about how effera is actually impacting everyday life for women through their cycle. And we're going to gain more insights, but every single opportunity we gain more data and knowledge on the powerful effects of effera on women's health.
Let me take it this way. Why is creatine what it is today?
Hundreds of studies.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what we need to do.
On pregnant women, on bad sleep, on muscle, on brain, on Alzheimer's. And so I see what you're saying, because at the beginning, you can only fund so many different data sets, and you can only go in so many directions. And so it's starting to spread. Creatine, it can talk about everything and anything.
Now,
because
we're creatine at the
Exactly.
beginning.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
That's what I get excited about. I mean, I went to TSI. Those guys did it with HMB, right?
Yeah.
HMB is becoming, it's following creatine, and it should, because it's undeniable, the health benefits. But the only way to do that is by continually studying. But I know that the building blocks are there. Like, I think it's essential for it's going to be a huge unlock for health. But now we're at the beginning here. Who wants to ride with us and build the story?
And that's like the incredible moment that you have right now, is that supplements, health, and wellness are at like such a moment.
Functional health.
Yeah, there's like this renaissance of just people getting interested in self-care through exercise and nutrition. And then you have things like creatine, which have already been on such an upswing for so long, that there's this rising tide for any sort of efficacious ingredients. If you can message it well, it can ride along all these things. I mean, Target has a whole active nutrition set now.
Yeah, and this is not Helena's stance. This is mine. But I think the world and the consumer, especially in the U.S., is focused more on root cause functional health. Right? We're trying to get ahead of disease instead of treating disease after it's too late with pharmaceuticals. There's a movement there, and there's certain things that we can do: healthy lifestyle, certain compounds, diet. But creatine's an example. Some other things that I believe this is one of those root cause. I don't want to go down anything that's crossing the line on.
No,
but, we can get ahead of it with this compound.
Right. Now, one fun thing that we had with creatine was how controversial it was back then.
Exactly.
And I don't think you're going to be able to get that kind of moment where like the mainstream press is hating you so much that Tommy in high school now has to use it and everything. So we had some fun things going on. But with my personal opinion, like some of the things that you're seeing, I was telling you and Jonas earlier, I think we need to get Laura on like the women's podcast circuit. I think that's like where I would push her into that direction, because she speaks so well, and she'll speak so well with those women. I think that like she doesn't even have to sell the ingredient, and it makes sense once you like really just dive into what this stuff does, and you get someone like a very educated, experienced like woman podcaster. Well, it'll click, and then it's like it belongs in every stack. And if anyone wants Ben and I to formulate a prenatal vitamin, it's going in that. Like I definitely think it belongs in. I don't even know if GNC has a Mega Women, but like if there's the female equivalent of Mega Men, it belongs in that. That's
100%.
That is where we need to get this to the level of like, yeah, this should be sitting there right next to a vitamin C or something.
Oh yeah, and you brought up prenatal. I just have to highlight like that one's become obvious to us, because when you look at pregnant women, and I'm learning all this on the fly, but when you look at the studies, over 80%, some of these studies, over 80% of pregnant women are going to be iron deficient. That causes low preterm birth, low birth weight, a lot of issues for fetal development, a lot of issues for mother. iron supplements aren't working.
Right, I was gonna say, are they truly iron deficient though, or is the iron trapped in their stomach or liver or whatever?
Yeah,
Like
they're
exactly.
not, they're not iron deficient.
Right.
So they're anemic. So there are two kinds of anemia. There's low iron anemia and then basically standard anemia. So you have the ferritin, which is your iron store, but it's not being delivered to where it's needed, right? So you have that in your liver, and then you have it gets shut down by inflammation through hepcidin.
Hepcidin. It's a
Hepcidin.
hormone. But
Right.
Anthony, I'll stop you right there. So you can't resolve the issue by just taking more iron.
No, and that's basically you basically end up with black stools, right? So you've seen this throughout. The bioavailability of iron supplements is very low, and the correlation between supplementation and resolution of anemia is not great. So this is really where lactoferrin is effectively the signaling molecule, which we were talking about an aeroplane kind of.
He's got an analogy.
Like you've got hepcidin, which is basically the airplane, right? And then you've got the cargo, which is ferritin, and then you're trying to deliver it wherever it has to go. And then lactoferrin is like the air traffic controller. It allows the airplane to leave with the cargo on board, and also it controls the weather. So when the weather's good, it allows the plane to go, and when the weather's not good, it stops the flight. So it's kind of like it's really an educational molecule, both for the immunosystem, but also for managing iron homeostasis.
That's the signal.
It's not really. It doesn't really deliver iron. It only has 2 atoms of iron by itself. So, and you're not taking in enough of that for it to be an iron supplement in its own right. Mm-hmm. But that the saturation level of lactoferrin is very much indicative of the health of your homeostasis, and it's basically being a buffer and a communicator between your liver and the rest of your body about where your iron should be.
Yeah, to put it really, and this is really glossing over a lot of details, but lactoferrin can open the highway or close the highway of iron in your body. It's not just iron getting from your gut into your blood. It's releasing iron from the stores in your body and
mitigating the inflammation that you get from excessive iron and excessive, free iron in your blood and cells.
It's complex.
Yeah, no.
We think about it every day.
This kind of breaks my heart, because if I'd known this 2 years ago, if I'd known more about lactoferrin 2.5 years ago, I lost someone very close to me.
Sorry to
and
hear
they were sick, and one of their many issues was extremely low iron. He went for the iron transfusion, and that could possibly turn out worse. Like
it raises inflammation.
And we didn't. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like the standard of care right now for some of these people is completely wrong, because they don't need more iron just to fudge up a number on a
basically you need an additional 2 milligrams of iron a day in your diet.
That's the dietary intake that you need.
So if you work out the amount of iron that you're losing, it's literally very, very small amount. So to get pernicious anemia, even people with pernicious anemia, their iron status is okay. It's just they don't have the ability to you don't have the B12 to be able to deliver the iron where it needs to go.
Women do lose more iron, though, right? The 2 milligrams per day is for men. What's on the average for women?
That I don't really know, but it's really not much
pregnant
more.
women, and the iron demands are a lot higher, because you got to think they're making more blood for their fetus, and they have to deliver iron to this other growing entity.
So it's not, but the point really becomes, it's not how much you're giving yourself; it's how you're getting it.
That's one thing I want to clear up. Lactoferrin is not an iron delivery molecule. It is the iron regulator, right? So it's turning on and off the highways, for lack of a better metaphor. It's not about, hey, it's going to absorb iron better. That's not what we're doing. Yeah. We're telling the body we're lowering the inflammation. That's what lactoferrin is, lowering inflammation to open up the highways, release the stores, and potentially get out of this anemic state, or it's not iron deficient state. It's not using iron appropriately. So
That's what kills me. This is so important,
So
and no one
important.
understands it
Well,
at
it's
all.
hard.
Like,
It's a complex story.
yeah,
Right?
Well, our community, not our community, but like the whole medical community needs to get this. Like,
There are people
upsets
that
me.
do know this, but it's just not out in the vernacular. It's not in the.
And we're just dumping more iron on people.
Yeah.
It just drives me crazy.
We're not making this up. I mean, these are studies from experts that this has been identified, and lactoferrin's been identified as a solution, and a human lactoferrin could be an even better solution.
Now-
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so Anthony, why is the body not making enough itself? Are there certain things that are just shutting us off? Or?
I think that's why do we have this state of allergies and low immune? I guess it's our diet, the sterility of the way we live these days. I think it's just the theory of homeostasis. You need to challenge your immune system. You need to challenge. And we don't do that. We're not doing that. We're living in a very sterile environment. We're not eating the right foods, so we eat very standard foods. Even if you have a diverse diet, you're still not eating it. You're not evolutionary. We're designed to eat berries and lots of different materials. Which, if you go into the indigenous populations of the Amazon, they don't have irritable bowel syndrome or gastric distress. Because their system's honed, right? It's tuned, and we're just not doing that. And it's progressing further and further, just like allergies are progressing further and further. It's the same syndrome in my mind. It's the way we live our lives.
And there's different stages of life where your lactoferrin levels are going to be lower. So there's a direct link between estrogen and lactoferrin levels. Yeah. So going through menopause, not only and I'm no expert in this area, so give me some rope, but as your estrogen levels go down, your endogenous lactoferrin levels go down. That causes a lot of issues that we can help mitigate.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I see. Well, we got some cool products here. I wanted to talk about a couple of these because I mentioned this with Laura, like the fact that you are doing novel, unique, cool stuff here, you're attracting some really novel, unique, cool brands and everything. So this, like right when I picked this up, I was like, oh, this is heavy. This young gut, this is actually a glass jar, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Like we're always sticking with plastic and everything. And so, like, some of these products are pretty cool. So are there any of these that you are invested in or are proud of? Or
yeah, I'm proud of all of them. I mean, we have some incredible partners. It's funny, these are the early adopters, right? So we launched Effera in Q1 this year. These people were already thinking about this type of concept and knew our lactoferrin aficionados or colostrum aficionados, and they just saw an opportunity with this novel ingredient. But I see Ben holding what was that, CAPOS?
Yeah. I think like what's really cool about it is that we've been talking about this ingredient for so long, but where does it actually end up in the market, how you use it? This one's called a human milk equivalent superfood.
Let's talk about that. All right. So we explained the difference between bovine lactoferrin and human lactoferrin. Colostrum's blowing up. That's bovine colostrum, right? Humans make their own colostrum. The composition between bovine and human colostrum is very different. In human colostrum, the lactoferrin levels are almost 10x what you'd find in bovine. So it seems like it's more important for our physiology. So we know bovine colostrum has its benefits. What if we could replicate actual human colostrum now that we have this molecule? And that's the concept here with CAPOS.
Yeah.
And we're delivering a precise amount where we have clinical substantiation to know what it's going to do, and we're trying to replicate a better super colostrum. This would be human colostrum. So I love that concept.
Combining with human milk oligosaccharides.
Yeah, with HMOs. Some of the main bioactives in colostrum are HMO, lactoferrin, IgG, and then you got some of the other cool things that they're a little smaller, like IGF-1 and things like that. But we're trying to replicate what would be, actual human colostrum with proven efficacious doses of certain ingredients. So I think it's awesome. I mean,
I like this formula. I think a lot of people get tripped up on the IGFs or the growth factors a lot when it comes to breast milk.
Wouldn't those be considered drugs almost?
They
Like
are
I don't
drugs
think
in
we could
many
put them in
Yeah.
in products.
Well, that was kind of one of the big things with colostrum getting big back with BioGrow back in the day, was like all the naturally occurring growth factors.
Right.
I think those are a lot more useful. I could totally get fact checked on this, but as an adult, I don't think we can absorb it very efficiently.
Yeah.
Like I think kids can do very well with it, but like we don't absorb IGF.
Well,
in the
I mean,
gut.
why not have the best of both worlds? I mean, this is one concept, but if you combine bovine colostrum with effera,
yeah,
yeah.
and I think that's a great concept. But I also just like look at effera as like it's like people look at IGF like I'm going to consume this and it's going to do this thing for me. But to me, effera is much more of a holistic approach. Like it's just like nectar of the gods. I keep going back to it, like just looking at it very like in a very proprietary instead of like human growth hormone, IGF, like these like very specific isolated materials.
Right.
I look at effera as much more like a upstream thought process.
Right. Yeah. No, that absolutely makes sense. So a lot of these early launches are centered around the colostrum aspect.
I like the Supercore one. This
Super cores.
With
Yeah.
the
This
Mulin.
this one.
Nice touch to that one.
Yeah. This
completely.
one's incredible. I mean, I take this product.
I think the combo with Immunolin is a really cool
Yeah,
one.
Immunolin, absolutely. It's the best IgG on the market. It might be the only IgG on the market, but 55 clinical studies. We know what it does. But yeah, this, no offense to bovine colostrums out there, but this is going to do a lot more for you.
But I feel
From
like
a
this,
benefit standpoint.
And there's no colostrum,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
it's not, there's no colostrum in here, but it has the main bioactives of colostrum
So you
in
don't have
efficacious
the-
doses.
and I always feel like this is kind of like what colostrum brands want to be, what they
This is
claim
what-
to be.
yeah.
This is a much more pure version.
I
of
mean,
it.
I'll be controversial. I mean, this is going to do a lot more good for your body than taking a bovine colostrum. I mean, that's the idea.
And it's
Right.
powered by Ferra.
And Effera is powering it.
Exactly.
Yeah, Anthony should be in
Dan.
business development.
Yeah, I got to put you guys on the spot because we do this
Yeah.
sometimes. Let's formulate a gut health supplement right now with Effera.
Love it.
Give me, because I know you worked at Deerland, so you got
Yeah,
some good stuff there.
I got-
So let's get 3 or 4 ingredients that we think should be in a gut health supplement. And like, are we doing a specific gut health or just like a holistic, just all around?
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think holistic health.
Yeah, let's just-
gut health.
Yeah, let's fix your gut.
So, I mean, the great thing about Effera and Lactoferrin, it's effectively a pre-pro postbiotic
In its own
in
right.
its own right, because it's making that communication. So I think for me, at least Effera plus HMOs would give you all of the communication that you need with the right bacteria to promote higher short chain fatty acid production and a more diverse microbiome. So I would go there. Yeah, that's where I would.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to formulate the product that I would want to take.
Yeah, that's what I
Right,
was
like
gonna
my
do.
dream product. It'd be, I mean, one of the coolest gut health ingredient, and I'm not associated with the company anymore, but Pre4 Pro, the bacteriophage. I mean, incredible. It's going to, have a very high impact on microbiome ecology in a short amount of time. And we know it works every time, right? We don't need to get into details there. So that's kind of the prebiotic, right?
Okay.
So that's going to help with just overall microbiome. We'll get to Effera last. My favorite probiotic strains, same company, but DE111. I just trust it. We know it's alive. We know what it does. And then I would go to some of the classics like Rhamnosus GG or some of the highly studied LABs. I think having one spore, one bacillus, one lactobacillus, and one bifidobacterium, just whatever's going to be the highest studied. It's different areas of the gut too, where one's an anaerobe, one's a facultative anaerobe. So you're hitting all areas of the gut with the probiotics. So that's the seed, right? And then the feed, we have to find it, maybe like a solnol,
Like a fiber,
like a
right.
fiber, right? And then the weed, Pre4 Pro, but also Effera on the weed side, right? So pulling out or beneficially promoting the good bugs and the probiotics I was talking about. And then the last thing that's really important is the gut lining and nutrient absorption, right? And there's some inflammation in the gut lining. That's where effera stands out in this formula. So it's holistic. We're fixing the microbiome. We're seeding it with some amazing probiotic strains. We're beneficially promoting the beneficial bacteria. We're making that change with this formula, and then we're making your gut lining healthier, tightening the gap junctions, better nutrient absorption. I mean, I think that would be an incredible product.
I promise everyone that I did not tell Dan I was going to ask this question. It seems like you've been thinking about
I think
this.
about it every day.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Would that be a overly cost prohibitive product?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not though. I mean, I think you can make it work.
People are willing to pay when their guts are jacked up.
Yeah.
Like, I think the price premium can go up a little
Well,
bit. You know?
let me say the reason why I think about it every day is because knowing what I do, a lot of people come to me for supplement recommendations. So many of my friends and family have gut health issues.
Yeah.
If I have to direct them to multiple products,
Right.
I'm doing this all the time. If I would give them that product,
That's the
every
damn thing,
single
right.
person that came to me, I'd give it to them. We didn't talk about digestive enzymes, but that's a whole separate thing. But
Would you need like a butyrate or like a short chain fatty acid addition into there?
I would love. Yeah,
Into your
I was trying to be. You talked about expense.
Oh,
I was
okay,
trying to
yeah,
be careful. I would definitely throw butyrate in there.
Okay.
You also got to think about, is that possible to formulate? You know, you probably know some people have some good butyrates, but it smells pretty bad, tastes bad. Like now we're getting into multiple gram doses.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's what. Yeah,
but
butyrate's 200
yeah,
milligrams. It smells
yeah.
better, but right. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Throw butyrate in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's the Dan
Yeah.
plan right there.
Yeah.
The done plan.
But I don't have an opinion on it.
We did content for a company a long time ago that threw banana flavoring in with the butyrate.
Did that work?
Yeah.
I haven't been
honestly,
following the butyrate ingredients,
It
but
honestly really worked really well because it smells like stomach acid, but banana.
It's like vomit.
back at
Totally covered.
I worked at a contract manufacturer. Obviously, you see, I've worked on a lot of gut health products, and I wanted to put butyrate in, and we formulated it in a product. This is way back in the day, and we got the business. We were making this product. We get the first. We get the first PO, so we order the butyrate material. We put it in the back, and every single operator came running out and were like, Dan, we can't work with this. It stunk up the whole building. So like, I just had a bad experience a while ago.
Yeah, we're not even talking about like drinking a drink. Like put it in pills, and they were
Yeah.
putting banana flavor in the pills. to
No,
cover
yeah, it stinks. We were making pills. It
stinks.
stinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's some new technologies, but I haven't
It's
been on.
very volatile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy knows better than me. He could probably look at
Yeah.
the molecule, tell you it stinks.
I appreciate that. I don't have anything else.
Cool.
That was one of the better on the spot formulations. I think you win the
pretty
award
good.
right now.
Thanks,
so.
buddy. I appreciate it.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for having us here. Is there anything else? We kind of talked about marketing. We talked product. We talked science. We talked iron, direction. Can you hint at any of the studies coming up or anything? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good one. And Anthony, I'll just give a top line,
you
and
go.
Anthony can fill it in. So, what we're talking about in the beginning, right? We have 3 studies. We're focusing on gut health because we know table stakes, right? We want to prove it out on effera. So we're gonna have a microbiome study going at University of Illinois. And Anthony will share where we're at with that. We have a very large clinical going on for gut permeability, looking at tight gap junction proteins and epithelial lining. That first experience with this, super expensive and complicated to do, but we invested in it. And this is really a landmark clinical. I don't think people understand how critical that component is and being able to influence it. So that should wrap up at the end of the year, and we should have a publication. And then we have another, this is actually disease population, IBD, IBS, microbiome. We're looking at butyrate producing bacteria, proliferation with effera. So we call it the gut trifecta. So we should have 3 clinicals publishing on
Soon.
yeah, soon on gut health. And Anthony can go into that. And then outside of that, our roadmap, clinicals are everything, right? We talked about it. So we have we have like a list of like 50 clinicals we want to do. We're partnering with brands. We're getting their feedback. We're looking at the market, but we're ready to press go on some pretty cool things. We're looking at sports nutrition. We're looking at the combo with creatine.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at, strength and performance. And then, women's health, prenatal. Those are expensive and difficult clinicals to do, but we're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then outside of that, like MOA type of stuff. So we're making those decisions, but in the immediate future, we have the gut health stuff coming out, and maybe Anthony could share more. I don't know if you have anything to add, Anthony.
I mean, we've already seen some of the data coming through. So we did a safety clinical, and the primary endpoints were looking at no break in tolerance for taking effera, because it's a human protein. But when we did that clinical, the results were fantastic. So in terms of my scientific career, I've got papers in Nature and papers with a Nobel Prize winner, but the best data I saw was the human clinical, where it was just bovine that produced antibodies and nothing for effera. That was pretty amazing. So that's published already, but during that clinical, we took sputum, fecal samples, and some other urine samples as well, and so we analyzed the 16S bacterial diversity in those samples, and we're analyzing that data right now. We just got that back from Sharon Donovan's lab at University of Illinois, and we're going through it, and there's directionally very interesting changes in the microbiome. And then, as Dan mentioned, we ran a clinical in a small cohort of IBS patients, and we saw a reduction in Clostridia, which is the necessary prerequisite for an improvement in the microbiome in those patients.
I do have another question that came up, and we talked about ethics and everything. What about have you ever talked about the ethics of messing with the yeast themselves? Like, do yeasts have souls?
Can I give you the other side? Like,
let's go though. Let's do the full.
Bovine lactoferrin today. He'll correct me, but we're taking the colostrum from calves.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, we talked about this with Laura, and I think that's a serious problem. I already agree.
I just want to give that context.
Yes.
We get into go with the yeast thing.
No, so we're tinkering with yeast, and my question is, there's not a zillion genes in this thing, but there are enough genes. Like, is there a pain gene in the yeast, or is there?
Are we hurting the yeast?
Yeah,
Anthony, you hurting yeast?
At what point does a creature have a soul? At what point do you guys ever kick this
now
around
we're
at all?
really going.
No, I mean, I think the standard of care for the yeast is pretty high, right? They get looked after pretty well.
Yeah, they have a beautiful home here.
They do actually have a beautiful home. I just wonder if you guys have ever discussed that.
Philosophically, we looked. If you think about all the things that are produced through microbial fermentation, including beer, it's just the same analogy. We've been using fermentation for millennia. So think cheese, think bread, think coffee, tea, chocolate, wine, kombucha, kimchi. This is all fermentation. This is all the use of microbes. What we're doing is precision fermentation, where we are, taking it to an advanced level, a particular organism, and reprogramming it to do a benefit for humankind, right? So what we're trying to make is a nutritional protein that's the only way you can access this. You can access bovine lactoferrin by stripping out a cow's milk or accessing colostrum. Ethically, I have no problem in working in yeast compared to the human.
Well,
I fully agree.
What about
animal husbandry and how we manage?
Today? I mean, is that unethical? I mean, that's a living.
Because
it came from a living
tweaked
organism.
with them and stuff, or
well, I mean, we.
Our bananas alive.
The difference between yeast and plants.
I'm a killer, so that's okay.
No, I'm not saying bananas are alive, but think about the plants we harvest. Is that unethical? I mean.
Right, of course, there's many layers to this. I think what struck me earlier is one thing you said is that the yeast doesn't want to make lactoferrin. And maybe so, I don't know.
It really doesn't.
Have you asked you asked the yeast?
No, this is just my experience of 3 years working on it.
He's telling it that it doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. He's liking it now. He's liking it now.
Well,
Anthony told him what's up.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you don't make the lactoferrin, then you don't get to play. You don't get to live. So, it's almost.
Wow. It really went sideways, Mike.
Yeah, sorry. Or maybe we could cut that. Anyway, well, guys, I really do appreciate everything here. This is
awesome. This is crazy.
You're welcome.
I learned a lot.
So all Anthony does is yell at yeast, and he tells it what to do. That's what we're doing in this lab here.
We learned so much this trip. A lot of times when we go on these trips, I was joking with Mike before, like when you walk into labs like this, and like, yeah, we break this compound up into 18 things, and then we do all this stuff. And I look at Mike, I'm like, we can't see any of this happening. Like they could be gaslighting all of us right now. Like, because I like to ask a lot of descriptive questions because we have to explain this to people that are looking at it through a cell phone screen. Yeah. And your team was able to explain and show a lot more than other places have. So it was really, it's very visually stimulating. Seeing the little reactors.
I thought you figured us out because really that's all for show. It's just Anthony is a yeast whisperer and he can talk to yeast.
Dude,
so
they're showing
showing
us these little tiny vials. They're like, yeah, there's DNA in here, and we're like,
cool,
sure. Like it's just clear liquid, you know.
Yeah.
But it is really cool to see all the cultures growing, and obviously, and you have some very expensive machinery that's very impressive as well. I think it's the first mass spec I've seen in person.
Yeah, for sure. I think it does feel very. You don't know what's real back in the R&D stages when things are starting because like CRISPR, there's a lot of software. There's this clear fluid that we don't know anything. It doesn't become real until you get to the actual bioreactors where you see the soup getting made. Mm-hmm. And that's where my brain starts clicking a little bit better with it because I'm a visual type person, like engineer type person. I need to see it and seeing.
And then the pink powder.
And then the pink powder, yeah. That and
you know
I know
why
that
it's
that's
pink,
my
right?
My lactoferrin. What's that?
You know why it's pink?
Because there's a touch of iron in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you make me an iron-free version that's got no iron in there whatsoever?
Yeah, and it's beige.
It's beige.
Boring protein.
So the iron gives it a little bit.
Yeah,
of,
he engineered it that way.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Because for someone like, well, okay, so you said there's not that much iron in it anyway. It's only like 1 or 2 atoms per
2 atoms per molecule.
So, as someone who had been suffering from
Ferritin has 4,000.
Okay, that's what I was saying. I was suffering from iron overload with a huge ferritin score and everything. Got it down, but the taking lactoferrin, I did realize I'm taking this pink lactoferrin. I am adding a touch more iron to my body, but I mean, not more than a single bite of steak, probably.
No, not even.
Yeah.
Just a vanishingly small amount.
Okay, so then I don't have to ask you to make me a beige lactoferrin at all.
No.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Anthony.
This is great. Thank you guys.
Cool. Yeah,
Cool.
thank you
Yeah.
guys.
LinkedIn, places people can find you.
LinkedIn, yep. All on there, yep.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm on there quite a bit. Usually commenting on your posts. So let's go to PricePlow.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right,
All right.
thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.